Forget loyalty, it's a mug's game. I am not going to let them make money out of me.
That's the most likely place where they'll say, oh, hold on, just had another look, we can do this for you. So you can be very nice and assertive.
Sinead, with the ability to save hundreds and even thousands by switching utility providers, why then do so few people do it?
I think it's down to apathy, Katie, for want of a better word. And look, people have busy lives. This is dry material, right? They have a lot better things to do when they see a bundle of papers coming through from an insurance company or an energy company or pinging in their email. It can be often the path of least resistance just to renew what I already have. It stops me thinking about it. I don't have to make a decision. It's, complicated, dry stuff. But in so doing, you are doing the one thing that these companies absolutely depend on. And that is that a whole chunk of their existing loyal customers will continue to be existing loyal customers. But it won't be because they've made a conscious decision, that you're the best company, you're the best provider, you're giving me the best deal. No, it's like, I just can't bear the alternative, which is sifting through all this stuff and having to take an action. But, as Charlie and I can attest to, it is... hardly ever takes as long as you think it will. It's hardly ever as complicated as it looks. And the kick you can get from the saving, it's like a double whammy. Okay, I've saved money, right? I'm still spending, but it won't be as much this year. But I've kind of pulled one over on them. And that can be a fantastic feeling. And for that reason alone, you can nearly gamify it to be a fun day out.
Yeah, I agree. And I think it can be a catalyst as well. One little win kind of propels you to go looking for more. Charlie, what about you? Do you have a process each year?
I have a mental thing where I'm not going to let them get the better of me. It's just too easy to make money out of consumers in this country. And take electricity. We pay way over the odds in this country for electricity. We have some of the most expensive electricity in Europe. It's about €360 more expensive here than on average in the European Union. But you could save that on more by switching, particularly if you've got gas and electricity. You could make up that switching far more effective than going around turning off lights and restricting the amount of time you spend in the electric shower, or not boiling the kettle 15 times or whatever. The switching, it's a bit of hassle, but it's forget loyalty, it's a mug's game. You've just got to have a mentality about it. I am not going to let them make money out of me. I'm going to get the best deal I can here. It's going to take a little bit of effort, a few phone calls, a little bit of research online. Prepared to do that, because I never want to feel that I'm the mug here, I'm the mark. And you are the mark if you're not switching. Always remember that. You are the mark if you're not switching. So you've got to do it. It's easy to do with electricity, dead easy to do with the likes of motor insurance. And you have to do it for the likes of health insurance because it's got so expensive. This year in particular, we need to do it because we're not getting any energy credits. There was no tax reductions or tax credits weren't widened in the budget. We didn't get extra tax credits. The bands weren't widened. And inflation continues to be a problem, particularly food inflation. But almost everything is going up. The year started with more insurance increases in health insurance, tolls going up, petrol and diesel, food prices continuing to go up. There's a whole raft of things which are more expensive all the time. So we need to just put a bit of effort into this. Otherwise, we're just going to lose money. Why leave that money on the table? It's yours. You can get it. Go and get it. Grab it.
Yes. Sinead, as Charlie touched on there, there's no loyalty here, but there is no reward, is there, for the loyal customer who's been with you for 10 years? It's really the reward there for the new customer who's coming along in year one.
It used to be the case that some industries gave you a reward for staying with them. So in the old motor insurance market, if you kept your no claims bonus up, you could renew at cheaper prices. That's kind of all done away with now. You carry your no claims certificate with you from insurer to insurer. Health insurance, likewise, absolutely no loyalty. And there is a huge sense out there that what if I get sick in the first 6 months? What about, me being sick while I'm renewing? None of that. That just doesn't exist. It's the law. So you can absolutely feel free to do this. Electricity and gas and utilities and phone, well, sometimes you're built into a contract, say a year or 2 years. You probably don't want to crash out in the middle of that period. But once it's up, the market's open to you. And remember, a lot of our markets now, virtually all of them, are fully deregulated. So you might have 8, 9, 10, 11 suppliers in the energy market. So why wouldn't you compare? There's always new players coming in who are trying to hoover up some customers from other companies, and there are always older players who are trying to get rid of some customers. The problem is you're not going to know which camp you fall into until you put in your own personal details, your own circumstances, and then you'll find out very quickly by the price that spits back out at you whether you're one of those favoured customers or not. So by not checking it out, not finding out, you're doing yourself a disservice. The company's perfectly happy to take your money. But you need to actively do this. There's no industry that I'm aware of where they're going to phone you and say, by the way, company B has a better plan than us.
Yeah,
and use online comparison sites like Bonkers, Switcher.ie, and get the Irish Independence Saturday Switching Saturday
We've
supplement.
done all the work for you.
There's pages of details there. For example, the health insurance. We take you through various levels of plans: low value plans, mid-level plans, high-end plans, family plans, and here we give you the best. Here's the best in each category. And forget it, every day I've somebody on to me when there's a price increase saying, what's the regulator doing about it? We don't regulate prices in this country. The government, what are they doing about it? The government doesn't intervene. We have a free-for-all in terms of pricing. So the onus is on us. It comes right back to us to do something about it, because there's nobody going to help you here. We're on our own. That's the system we have here. People need to get this into their heads. There's no regulator going to say, sorry guys, you're not putting that price up. You put it up last year. You put it up 6 months ago. So we're not allowing that. Companies choose when to put up prices. It's based on the fact there's a lot of general inflation. They have sometimes pretty good reasons for putting prices up. Prices keep going up. So it pushes it back to us to try and counter that. And you can counter that by seeking out a better deal, by not being an idiot, staying with the same company over and over, who just keep whacking on extra prices. With health insurance, for example, 330 different plans out there, including corporate plans. There are lots of possibilities for you to make a saving. Ring them up, tell them what your budget is, tell them what benefits are important to you, tell them what plan you're on, this is your existing insurer, and say to them, okay, you lay out to me 4 or 5 different plans that are better value than that with similar benefits, and write it down, please, and post it to me. And that can be done.
And it doesn't, like, a lot of the thing that put people off is that very thing. There's 350. How am I supposed to know which is right for me? But for most people, their circumstances are quite narrow. So you're not going to be in the market for 300 plans, because some of them are very basic pack, yellow pack stuff. Some of them are, 10 grand a year, top quality 5-star stuff. So most people have a set of circumstances which can change, actually. And this is where you get poor value, where your circumstances change and you don't change with it. So let's say you get something like a renovation done in your house. You've spent an awful lot of money kind of getting the BER up and, future-proofing it and all that. To not look for better house insurance as a result, and maybe a cheaper mortgage.
Yes.
Like, that can pay you back some of the money that you've expended on this stuff, because all insurance companies prefer an A-rated house.
Yes.
All banks prefer an A-rated house. So they're going to give you better value. They want to get their books nice and, honestly, it's a bit like bookies at the races, right? Anyone who went to the races over Christmas. You're down, the bookmakers are all looking at each other. They're looking at the punters coming at them. They're looking at the horses. So, underwriters are exactly the same. Actuaries, that's all they are, posh bookies. And they're judging odds off each other. So in the car insurance market, for instance, you might have a company A, which has far too many boy racers living in rural areas. They don't want another one. So they're going to price them out of the market. What they want are nice, safe nurses in their 40s living in Dublin. You might have company B, who has far too many of them, right? And they need a little bit of risk on their books, or they need to get the premiums higher. So they're looking for people maybe who drive an awful lot, maybe reps, or, people who can't leave their car in a garage overnight. They're happy to take that risk because they can charge them a little bit more and balance up their books. You'll never know until you ring around. And like Charlie said, you get people onto you all the time saying, no, hold on, this makes no sense to me. I'm driving a Ford Fiesta. It's 2015. I'm being quoted 800 quid by this company over here and 1,200 by this company over here. How can that be? And that's the reason, because they have people working in the background saying we need more of these people, less of these people, more rural, less urban, or whatever. There's myriad factors. You rock up with your age, your car, your living circumstances, your mileage, or your house, or whatever it is you're trying to insure, and they go, now we want more of those people.
Yes. And you can get the price down because, Charlie, you have a piece coming out in Switching Saturday, this Saturday, and you have a few tips there for anyone who wants to get the price of their car insurance down. And there's some really interesting ones, like adding a named driver, like a fully insured named driver to the policy.
Yeah.
Can shave a couple of £100 off.
Yeah. If there's two people on the policy, it sometimes give you a better deal than if you individually insure those people.
Yes.
So a partner and the other person.
Yeah, so I'd say play around with it.
Play around with it, take on a bit of an excess. So in other words, the first bit of a claim, you might have to pay that yourself.
Yes.
Maybe bundle your house insurance with your car insurance. They'll often give you a deal on that. Alternatively, just go to a broker, a good broker who knows the market. And as Sinead says, if you're a certain kind of risk, they will know who's good on that kind of a risk, pay annually if you can at all, because they're going to charge you every month a big hefty percentage for the convenience of paying it monthly. So if you can pay the amount in advance, that'll help as well. Be very careful with your job description. There's a huge difference between, for example, in my business, between being a desk editor and saying you're a reporter, because they have in their head that you're a reporter running around to fires and car accidents, so they think you're very risky. So be very careful about that you get an accurate description of your job. But because if you leave it kind of too vague, they might decide that's a risky profession. We're not interested in that one. So you just play with it a bit, but always you have to be honest, obviously.
Yes,
and what should help as well is they're taking an awful lot of uninsured drivers off the road at the moment. There's a big clampdown on that. That will really help. About 1,600 cars are coming off the road at the moment. They're being seized every month because they're uninsured. The guards now have these instant systems, devices that can recognise straight away whether a car is insured or not. So that will help a bit as well. On the flip side, it's very expensive to repair cars, so this is the reason that insurers give for pushing up motor premiums all the time. Particularly EVs are very expensive to repair. But look, as Sinead says, there's loads of competitors in the market. You will find somebody, particularly even if you're niche, you will find somebody who'll give you probably a better deal than you're on at the moment. I would defy. I think we've got 12 people into this room and went through their position with them. You'd probably be very surprised if you didn't get a better deal for almost all of those people on the core things that we all have to pay for all the time.
Yes.
So it's definitely worth doing. And you don't have to do it all. You can maybe get a broker to do it, or this month do your house insurance. And maybe your motor insurance is not due up till April. Do that then. Just make a note of it in your diary when these policies are due for renewal. Couple of weeks beforehand, put a bit of effort into trying to make sure you can squeeze a better deal. Haggle a bit. It's about haggling. It's like being at a market in a souk. What can you give me that for? You're going to keep going till you get the best price, and don't pay out any money until you're satisfied you're getting a good deal.
But you have to be good at haggling. Sorry to talk a bit.
Well, I think you have to be a bit of a keyboard warrior for sure. Because you can start online, but at the end of the day, if you can get a person in a call centre on the phone who's empowered to retain your business or to let you go, you can normally find out a lot quicker. One of the good things about the consumer directives over the years is now that insurance companies have to give you notice that you are coming up to the end of your policy. So I, like Charlie, have phone reminders to kind of say April for this and June for this, but they must give you a certain period of notice specifically to shop around. What they don't have to give you are all what the competitors are doing. They're not going to do that. So they're going to say on the 30th of March, your car insurance is up. You have to renew. Here's our price. Now that gives you a good chunk of time. Even I don't know how long you take, Charlie. An hour will clear it off.
Yeah,
you're done. You'll definitely find out if you can't get a better price very quickly. 3 companies will do that for you. And if they're all coming in, ping, 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 the same or higher, you're bringing a risk to that business that they don't like. Now, the risk might just be your car's too old. So I have a car now, which is in its 10th year. It's 10 years old. It's just over that. I'm going to run into problems now, not because the car is worth anything. It's really not, but it's harder to repair if it's in a crash. So that gives me a choice. Do I spend money and try and upgrade my car, or do I just take the hit on the insurance? Here's the thing, though. At least now I know. So I think people find it very confusing when the premium suddenly bounces and they're like, I didn't have a claim, nothing happened. Why has it suddenly gone up? There are factors that may be outside your control. And sometimes when you phone up and have that whole like human on the other side, and good luck getting that, but when you have a human on the other side, you can find that stuff out. And then you can make adjustments, or you can say, look, I'm going to try elsewhere and I'm going to come back.
Yeah. And tell me about the coming back process. So you go off, you find a deal for a couple of €100 less. Do you then get back on the phone and say, can you match this? Because for an easier life.
Sometimes saying to them you're going off to search elsewhere. Look, is that the very best price you can do for me? Because I now have to go and ring around a few companies. And if I find a better deal, I'm going to switch. So to avoid me that trouble, what are you going to do to retain my business? You can be very nice about it. These are people doing their job, and
you have to be nice to them.
You have to be nice to them, and they may be empowered somewhere on their long script. I mean, I've done this job, by the way. I know exactly. I worked in a call centre for years and years and years in the insurance business, and you're empowered to a certain point, and then maybe your supervisor's empowered to another level, and look, you'll find this if you ever want to make a complaint, you have to escalate and escalate. Well, it's the same with trying to renew your business. Is that the very best you can do? Because here's what I'm about to do. Now, they might have a left turn in their script which says, if the customer says that, then you're allowed to offer another 10% off. It happens me most regularly if you're to find out on broadband deals, actually, TV and broadband. And for me, that's the most likely place where they'll say, oh, hold on, just had another look, we can do this for you. So you can be very nice and assertive at the same time. And I think that's probably the winning combo.
I always ask for the person's name.
Yes.
You have to have the personal touch.
Because they have your name.
No good getting annoyed with them. You do tend to get annoyed because you feel you're being ripped off. And you have to suppress this anger about the company overcharging you. But that person at the other end of the phone, it's they're not making the decisions. They're not the chief executive. So you've got to be nice to them. The nicer you are to them, more inclined they are to... They'll find you a solution, you know. It's worth a bit of effort. It really is. Really is.
Yeah. Sinead, what's the best switching deal you ever got?
Oh, well, you have me in at a good time, because the best switching deal I've got, I was going to say this year, but we're so new into the year, probably in the last 12 months, happened to me last week. Ooh. And it was a house insurance policy. It wasn't for me, it was for my mum. And she has a house which had come up to renewal in January, and the renewal price I felt was far too much for the risk that was being covered. So it came in at €1,080. Now, that was a hike from last year, and I wasn't happy with it. The difficulty with that particular insurance, so when I rang the insurance company, I said, why is it so high? And they went off on inflation and construction, blah, 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 all that stuff that we know. But I said, look, I have an added issue here, because as it happens, my mum has entered a nursing home and the house is now vacant. So what price are you prepared to give me for that? Now, the problem with that particular issue is that insurance companies don't like that at all. Now, you might ask, why did you tell them? Well, you have to tell them. So if something happened in that house and it turned out to be subsequently vacant, because most insurance policies only allow you vacate property for 30 days, they won't cover it. You're in breach of contract. So it was important for me to lay that out to them. And they said, there's no change. It's the same price. In fact, we may even have to charge you more now that we have that information. And when I queried it, they said, well, we're the only insurance company doing it. There are no other insurance companies prepared to insure unoccupied houses. And I chose not to believe them. I rang around and I found one other insurer who absolutely was. And once I took the valuable belongings out of the house and asked them to reinsure for it, I got it down to €481.
Wow.
Nice.
Big drop.
What about you, Charlie?
Health insurance, change it every single year, particularly because it's complicated, because I have two young adults.
Yeah.
And we never end up on the same plans. My daughters and my wife and myself, you end up on different plans. But because we've had 3 years now of multiple increases, and they're taking benefits away, the last thing you need to do with health insurance is auto renewal. So every single year, change, swap around. That's a priority because it's such an expense. It's for a typical family of maybe 2 adults and 2 children. You're easily paying $2,500-3,000 a year.
Yeah.
So if you can knock a couple of €100 off that, €200-300, it's a big saving. because it's a big expense, health insurance, and we constantly have arguments, myself and my wife, about whether it's worth it or not.
Yes.
But I like to have it, but it is very, very expensive. So to justify the expense of it, I have to make sure we're getting the very best value possible. Alternatively, you can go to the likes of Dermot Good, Health Insurance Ireland. If he can save you a lot of money, he charges €250. But if he looks at your situation and goes, I don't think, stay on that plan that suits you or whatever, you're not going to get a much better plan, he won't even charge you, So he takes a lot of the mystery out of it because it's so damn complicated.
Yeah.
There's so few people who understand all the different plans, and it's a minefield. Somebody like Dermot Good can just... He can bring you through that minefield safely.
I like that people like that exist, because there just are people who it just is just a little bit too much admin for them.
I used to work in brokerage years ago, and I don't know what that says about my personality, but there's a whole... I love an anorak, and there's lots of people out there who are just absolute experts in what they do and how they go about it. We don't find this stuff fun, but they absolutely do. And if you can find one of them, they're actually worth their weight in gold, and that's across any insurances. And I think brokers do a super job in being able to narrow down the market of possibilities, because this is all they do every day. So rather than you being completely befuddled by the 400 of these plans and 87 of those plans, they can say, well, actually, there's 50 of those aren't even going to apply to you. So now that we have a smaller set of circumstances, and being very open about your circumstances. So what's changed in the last year? To your health, your house, your car, is there anything that's different? Because you can be absolutely sure that presents a different type of risk. And if it's if it's an improvement, you've changed your car, you've cladded your attic, you've done, you've improved your health. They are all things that are going to affect the premium that you're offered.
Yeah. So one of the biggest switches, the most lucrative, for want of a better word, is mortgages. Mortgage switching, particularly now. But is it worth the hassle, Sinead? Because we are looking at about 6 weeks, aren't we?
Do you know the thing about mortgages? When people think about mortgages, a lot of people start off by going, it's the hardest thing I've ever done. I never want to do it again, right? But what they're forgetting is that when they first went for a mortgage, they were also house hunting, right? Yes. So imagine just going for the mortgage without the hassle of actually looking for a new house. So it's a lot less hassle-free and a lot less time-consuming because of that factor. I think the best place to switch your mortgage is with your existing provider. That should be your starting point. So what's changed since you took out your first mortgage? Well, the chances are your house is worth more. So that means that what they call your loan to value ratio is better. So it's safer for the bank. Your house is worth more, your loan is less. That's a good position for them to be in. So you can work that out very easily by dividing the value of your house into the mortgage that's there, multiply by 100, anything under 80%. I go through this in the Switching Saturday. The sums are all there done for you, back of an envelope stuff. You're in the market straight away. So if your bank gave you a mortgage based on, you had to borrow 90% of its value, and that was 6 or 7 years ago, well, now you're providing them with a much better risk. So start there. Find out, would it be cheaper to fix mortgage? Most people are fixing these days rather than a variable loan. Have you done home improvements to make it a better proposition for them? Are you in a better position in terms of the rating on the house, or, security aspects, mortise locks, all that loads and loads of things you can look at in terms of house insurance and mortgages, and then ring them up and ask them what they'll do for you. If not, then you start off looking elsewhere. And switching to a different bank is a bit of hassle, because the new bank wants to know all of the things that the old bank used to know. However, you're coming almost pre-approved.
Interesting.
Because even though you have to go through some of the paperwork and it is going to take a few months, they know you're coming from another bank. In other words, it's not a brand new sale. You're not a first-time buyer. All you're doing is switching the financing. And it is a much easier process, I think, than most people believe. Yeah.
Charlie, you mentioned there the timeline of 1 hour to switch one service provider. But if you're making this... If you're taking a day to do this, should you take a day off work for like a life admin day, so to speak, and just get it all done?
It's a good idea, but I mean, it's a tough one. It's going to be a tough day. You're going to need a lot of coffee. My
Don't do it in
inclination
dry January.
Yeah, exactly.
No, you need a stiff gin beside you.
I think do it in chunks if you can. You know, yes, so if you want to just clear it all in one day, that's a great idea.
Yeah.
The sense of satisfaction at the end of that, pour yourself, you know, a 0-0 or a drink or whatever it is. But,
Yes.
you know, and celebrate if you have spent the whole day and you've saved yourself a packet. Otherwise, just kind of, you know, try and make a point every month of getting better value on something, you know, I mean, because there are loads of possibilities out there. We just don't think enough of it. We're too loyal. I think we're too honest. We're too decent as a people. So I think we're ripe to be ripped off because of that. We have it it is innate feeling that there's a regulator looking out for us.
Yeah.
No, it doesn't happen. Innate feeling that the company is going to reward our loyalty. Forget it. Doesn't happen. I have this innate feeling that, you know, prices, that they can't be going up the way they are. No, it's not happening. So you just have to overcome all of those prejudices and get real about it. The world, the financial world is against you. We have got to do the work. We're fighting them. See it as that, you know.
Yes. Where can the greatest savings be made, Sinead?
The biggest one, I mean, it depends how you look at it. In financial terms, in pure money terms, it has to be the mortgage.
Yeah.
But that's because that's your biggest outlay. So if you're spending 1,500 quid a month on your mortgage, you could probably, you know, you get that down to 1,200 a month. Well, then, you know, that's a huge saving. I think probably aside from that, the biggest ones are, again, depend on the highest premiums. So for most people, the next highest premium is their car insurance. And after that, maybe their house insurance. Health insurance is a huge one. So a mid-range health insurance plan, we used to be thinking about 1,500 euros, right? That used to be the premium we thought of. But I'd say now you're between 1,800 now and 2,000 is probably that mid-range bracket. However, as Charlie has said, there are so many plans within that range. And remember, there's only 4 insurers, 3.5 really. It's a very strange market. It's a slightly dysfunctional market. And you really have to work that little bit harder to get a saving. But these companies do want your business, especially if you are, you know, I'm going to say young and healthy, but I mean, they'll take pretty much anyone. They have to, you know. Yeah. But if you can present yourself as a good candidate, and remember, there's no underwriting in this market, so it's fine, and say, here is what I'm currently paying. Are you happy paying that? Yeah. Now I'm going to shop for what that can get me in every other company.
A good candidate. How do you represent yourself as a good candidate?
Well, you're coming to it as somebody who is an active switcher.
Yes.
I think that's probably the best way you can do it. In other words, you're not just being passive. And once you get on the phone or check, you know, with these, some of them won't spin quotes back at you until you give your details and your phone number and your email. Go for it. Let them call you. I mean, what have you got to lose? I find that certainly in travel insurance market and in the car insurance market, they don't like giving you quotes back until then. But you are presenting yourself as somebody who's active, who wants to save money and is looking for the best value. A lot of these call centre people, as I was myself, are trained to retain customers. That's their focus. That's their job. So they don't want to be dealing really with the complaints end of things or things that didn't go right. If you ring them up and ask them, you know, what can I do? I'm trying to do a little bit better. They've been trained up to talk about their products. Let them.
Yes.
Let them.
And a lot of them have divisions specifically for people who are about to move, right?
Customer retention. That's a big. It's far more difficult for these companies to get a new customer than it is to retain a customer. So if you're going to present it to them as you're at risk of leaving, you're moving to somebody, you're thinking about it, they're going to put a bit of effort into trying to keep you. But you know, oftentimes the retention loyalty bonus is a shadow of what the new customer deals tend to be far better. Now, we're supposed to have some of that banned, particularly with car insurance and home insurance, price walking, they call it, where your loyalty is punished and every year you have to pay more because you're seen as somebody at low risk of moving. So, you know, you have to let them know that I'm thinking about moving. What can you do for me? Is that the best you can give me? Come on, you can do better than that. You know, so keep pushing it, as Sinead says, if you don't want to move. But you know, maybe you'll just find that the offer you're getting isn't just good enough, and it might just be easier just to move to somebody else. It isn't a whole lot of hassle with electricity, for example. You just need to give them your your meter number or your gas number. You know, you need to have some idea of what your annual usage is, and bank details, and it can be done very quickly and easily.
There's over nearly 1.5 million homes now have been moved to smart meters. And smart meters give you instant information. So if you hop on to the website of your supplier, it'll tell you exactly how much electricity you've used, and that's a great starting point because it allows you to compare meaningfully rather than, oh, a 3-bed semi on average uses this, that and the other. Well, I mean, that depends. Are there 7 people living in the house or 2 people living in the house? It is going to be different. Your circumstances are different. So having that real-time information can be a great starting point to start comparisons and have a look at what's going on. And I find that maybe none of people interrogate it. Now, we're kind of probably a little bit nerdy on that account, and like we do like going in and seeing what the electric shower is using and how much it's gone up last year, but actually doing that in a meaningful way with a view to switching, saying if I'm not happy, if it's shocking the life out of me when I go, oh, that's your starting point. I think you really need to hate your outgoings. You need to hate your premiums. You need to hate the fact that these insurance companies and other suppliers are getting so much money out of you. And that deep frustration comes from that gasp when you see the bill.
Yeah, yeah. What's the easiest one? I mean, what's a one-call wonder? Like
electricity. It's got to be the easiest one. You can do it all over the phone. Nobody needs to come to your house.
Yeah.
You know, it's so easy to do. There's so many different companies out there. And as we know, we're way overpaying for electricity, so it's definitely worth doing. And it's dead easy to do.
Yeah.
But just be careful about a direct debit. If you have a direct debit going to an old company, make sure you send them a letter and copy that letter to your bank saying, I've cancelled that direct debit. I've now moved from electricity A company to electricity company B, if you're going to do that. Same with gas. You know, you don't want to end up with 2 months paying.
Yeah.
Before you notice, oh no, I've been paying the old company for 2 months when it didn't need to be, you know.
Just I'm glad you brought that up, because I think as well, a lot of these providers can say that they will close the other account down for you, and sometimes that doesn't happen.
Yeah.
So it's something you got to stay on top of, right?
Yeah.
So what's your plans this year for both of your switching journeys? How much would you like to shave off each year? Do you have a number in mind?
Well, I am. In terms of my mortgage, my kind of fixed period was up last year. So I'm locked in now for a few years on that. And I think I got the best deal that I could because we've gone through, you know, a very tumultuous 12 or 15 months where interest rates were going up and up and up and up and up and not down quite so quickly. So I'm happy enough with that at the moment. So I'll be leaving that one be. In terms of electricity and gas, I am in the middle of a 2-year contract. So I'm going to leave that one be. But that'll be first on my agenda when that rolls around, no question. Because electricity and gas are the easiest ones to switch. It's one phone call. Nobody calls out. There is this myth that people come out and they're going to change your box and drill into your thing. None of that happens. All you get is a bill on a different coloured bit of paper, different logo. That's it. That's the sole change. So beyond that then, I think broadband and TV is one I have to stay on top of all of the time. That creeps up. The package just creeps up every so often. And suddenly you can look at that, and by the time you've added in multi-room, the sports, you know, the movie channels, you know, like that's a not insignificant cost. So I like to review that and make sure that along with my subscriptions, which I switch regularly, that are they being used? Are they being used effectively, and is it worth what I'm paying for them? And sometimes I just knock stuff off. It's just not worth it anymore. You build a subscription, you take out an account to watch one series that is a water cooler, everybody's talking about it, and then you just let it drift, and suddenly you're paying, you know, 12 or 15 quid a month.
And you have to pay for the whole year.
So actually one of the best things you can do, I think, is to print out 2 months of bank statements. Okay, I'm old-fashioned now, so I like the printer. Print it out and use a highlighter. And anything that's going out automatically on standing order or direct debit, highlight it. So now you know what's going out. And if you don't immediately know what it's for, and you haven't compared it in the last year or two, that's the one that you have to look at straight away.
Yeah. What about you, Charlie?
I just keep an eye on everything all the time. You know, every bill that's coming, every contract that's coming to the end, I try to be aware of it, try to get in early. I think I drove them mad in Electric Ireland because I knew around Christmas that my contract was up, and they were going, oh, it's not just up for another couple of days, because I kept ringing them trying to see what offer they would give me.
I know you're fairly dogged. I work beside you. So
but you have to be dogged. Just be personable, be decent to these people, but just try and get a deal all the time. That's just what I try to do. Just try and get a deal, and that, you know, you get a good rush from that as well. It's great satisfaction to know, well, I couldn't have done any better there. That's as good as we're going to get. It's more than it was last year because it's gone up, but we got a 20% discount or whatever, or we kept it down from last year, or we shaved a bit off last year's even price, even though there was a price increase. That's particularly satisfying, you know. Yes. You know, you feel, okay, right, they didn't put one over me this time. You know, we won this little battle. See it as a little battle all the time. That's the way I approach it. Yeah.
Well, look, you both have some very comprehensive pieces on the subject of switching across all the different utility providers, and that's out on Saturday in the Switching Saturday supplement. And I think the message today to anyone listening is that there is money on the table, and just go and get it. Thank you, Sinead and Charlie. Thank you so much.